I'm Michelle Kerr, genealogist for the Society of Indiana Pioneers. Thought I might help applicants if I quickly go through the application and explain a few things. First, if you haven't gone to our website, this is a picture. I've got it up here of indianapioneers.com. We've got some links up at the top. If you go ahead and click on the ancestors link, with over 8,500 proven ancestors, it's a good possibility you might find your pioneer ancestor listed in here. I'm going to go ahead, mine happens to be George Julian. I'm going to go ahead and type in Julian, or if I'm not quite sure about how it might have been spelled, I can type in just a few letters, go ahead and hit submit, and we have, several Julians that were listed here, including one that was Julien as well. Mine happens to be George Julian. Now with this information, I would then go up, send an email to Society of Indiana Pioneers at yahoo.com and send it maybe to the attention of the genealogist myself, Michelle Kerr, and I would ask for any kind of information that might be available for George Julian. And along with that, I would suggest that you send a little short copy of your lineage. Start with yourself, give your parents' names, your grandparents' names, all the names kind of going back to the pioneer ancestor. That way when I go and look at the applications, I can try and kind of customize the type of information that I would send to you depending upon where you might either tie into a previous application or at the very least just information on that pioneer ancestor themselves. And I never give out information on current generations due to privacy. Only information that's older into the earlier generations, that are more or less public record, or all public record. And I believe, as we quickly find out as genealogists and family history researchers, that sharing is an important part of the whole process here. Now, if we go over to the membership link, you can see here we have, as you kind of scroll down in here, this is where you would download the application. We also have a little link here to download instructions. And what I've done is try to put together a bunch of the frequently asked questions into a format that would, proves to be helpful when you're filling out this application. So I definitely would recommend that you go ahead and print that out as well as you're going through the application. It'll answer quite a few of your questions. Hopefully, with this little video, we will answer, quite a few of them as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. Most of you have probably already done a download, but if not, I'm going to put this on my desktop. I'm going to change the name to My Application and go ahead and save it. And then I'm going to go ahead and open it. And it brings it up here, it brings up a blank application. Under Word 2010, it gives me this little note that it is, wanting to make sure that we're okay with opening it up. And I'm going to go ahead and click on Enable Editing, and that will then allow me to go ahead and, continue working with it. The first two boxes that we come to are initial and added line. If this is your very first application, then you would be clicking on the initial box. If you are sending in an initial application and another one, you've got two pioneer ancestors or 3 or 4 that you're sending in all at the same time along with your initial application, then one of them will be your initial application and the rest of them will all be then considered added lines. If you're already a member and you're sending in additional application for another pioneer ancestor, then that would be considered an added line as well. We have a little box over here that you can click on for titles. You can click on and change it, or if you have a different title that you would like added to your, to your name and address information, then go ahead and, please add that as well. Then we kind of scroll down here and we get into this where you can check off if you do not want your phone listed in the yearbook, or if you do not want your email listed in the yearbook. You can check one or both of these off. I went ahead and pulled up here. I just wanted to kind of describe what the yearbook is. First of all, everybody that is a member has the opportunity to either receive a hard copy or an email version of our yearbook once a year. They go out early in March, and so members get them every year. And we also send out a copy to Indiana libraries, so they're there as well. But if you've never seen one, this is the front page. We always have stories on from the pioneer ancestor time period, and then there's different sections that remain the same every year and have for the most part have been the same since 1916 when the organization was started. We also have within this yearbook, which is a very important part of it, is the membership pages, and it lists the active members along with their approved ancestors. This is actually an excerpt from this year's yearbook, and it's my page where I'm listed at and my 4 ancestors. It's a little bit blurred out here, but I just want you to kind of see the format of the page. Some people end up having multiple ancestors, and you can see they have a rich heritage in Indiana history, which is absolutely wonderful. Some people only have one ancestor, or they have made a choice to only enter in one ancestor, and that's fine as well. We welcome everybody. As I said before, we have over 8,500 ancestors, and we are, ever so happy to, continue to add more. I'm going to go ahead and close this out and get back to the application. We have a section down here that's very important. It actually applies to the pioneer ancestor when you're going to go ahead and fill it out. I've got one here that I've kind of filled out, kind of a dummy template here with some scattered information. Georgia Join is my ancestor. The rest of the information is not any good, just for this video purpose. But I have filled out George's information. He was born in 1792 in North Carolina. He was living in Tennessee before he came to Indiana and came into Fayette County by 1821. If you have somebody who was born in Indiana before the cutoff period and that happens to be your ancestor, then you would literally only be filling in the name information, the birth information, and the city and county, within the state of Indiana, and you would not need to fill in the rest of these blanks. Then we go on down here into page 2, and of course this is kind of your basic lineage. You're going to start with yourself, and as most people would recommend, that's the best place to start your research as well. You're gathering your birth certificates, all your records, and going from generation to generation. I can not repeat it enough, and I'll probably say it again during this video, is the very important part of all this is tying each generation together. So in these more recent generations, your birth certificates, death certificates, obituaries and things are going to be tying each generation together. As you move farther back in time, then you're not going to have birth certificates, obviously, in 1857. You might have a Bible record, you might have a church record, but you won't have an official, birth certificate back then. So then we're looking at, seeing if we have death certificates, if we have obituaries, if we have probate records, wills, deeds. We start to look at different sources for some of our information. And again, we get back into here, and date of death is 1867. There was no death certificate, but we did happen to have a will, which tied then back to Nathan. And Nathan died during the Civil War, and obviously he was very young, and his record ended up being a probate record that named his children, because they were so very young. They were named, the whole family was named. And so then this probate record was my tie between the generation there. Early census records, 1850 through 1870, they're great. They show families, but sometimes they are not accurate. They do not give relationships. They may be accurate in the family names, but they may not be showing a accurate representation of what the family truly was. You can have nieces and nephews put in there. I've personally had 2 instances where an 1860 census listed an entire family, and it ended up having nieces and nephews in it. So, which was found out later on and proven later on. But so, at that point, then we're looking for, other things to help build a case. Then we're looking at the wills and the probate records and deeds and obituaries and anything else, county histories that were printed back in the 1880s. Anything that'll help to build your case, I am more than willing to look at and consider. And you want to go ahead and include all this. You fill in your application, and make copies of all your documentation, include that with it, you sign it, and go ahead and send it in. And please don't be worried that you might not have everything completed, that you're waiting to have all the I's and I's dotted, T's crossed, and you're nervous about sending it in. Please don't ever be too nervous to send it in. I go to great lengths to try and find information for people if it ends up that they do not have as much information as what I would like to see. I usually, I have access to the Indiana State Library where our office is. We're located on the first floor in the genealogy library, and so I have access to all the books in the genealogy library, as well as the microfilm on the second floor, which is, has counties, and we have county books and everything as well. So I have great access, and if I find anything, any will or anything up there in the microfilm, I always forward it on so that you can have it for your records as well. On the very last page, we have a place for you to put in service information. Please go ahead and enter that in if you would like to have your ancestor recognized for something important that they participated in. Down underneath evidence, of course, we can have land records, you can have census records. All these things prove that your ancestor was in Indiana in a certain county, at a certain time period before the cutoff date. That's all, that all helps to, tie everything together. If we come down here into the next section, we have names and addresses of family members. If you know of somebody in your family that you would like to have a letter sent to, a brochure, kind of explaining what the group is, and also an application. Literally, let's say that it's your son or daughter that you would like to, suggest that they apply for membership as well. They literally would only have to have a birth certificate, and that would tie them into your application, and I can help them, pull that together fairly quickly. So this is a wonderful way for people, to be able to have access to membership, and that maybe don't have all of the documentation that you as the family history researcher have pulled together through probably a number of years that you've been working on. So let me just quickly look over my notes. Let's see. Family pedigree charts, I do want to just mention those real quickly. I'd love to see those. Those are great road maps, but unless they have citations on them of where the information came from, I'm afraid that I can't use them as a piece of documentation. Like I said, they're great for pulling things together and giving us ideas of what a family, what it looked like, but I cannot use those as documentation. If you have any questions, please, do not hesitate to send me an email at societyofindianapioneers@yahoo.com. You can send it to my attention at Michelle Kerr, and I would be more than happy to help you, either answer your questions about the application or to help you, in your research. If you're having a problem, then we can discuss that as well, and possibly give you some ideas of places to look and things to try and do to gain extra evidence. Let's see. I think that's it. I want to thank you for sticking with me during this little video presentation. And again, if you have any questions, please call the office or send an email to societyofindianapioneers@yahoo.com. And this is Michelle Kerr, genealogist for the Lineage Society. and I appreciate your time.